actually. We work in a lot of different aspects. So be it technology management, development, intellectual property management, working closely with industries for contract R&D and similar kind of things. And we also do a lot of skill development programs. We also have an innovation technology transfer office that caters to entrepreneurs who want to file their patents or want to acquire technologies from different institutions or are looking for certain technologies, so we can help them to scout technologies. So FITT has been in multiple roles. We started our incubator in 1999 and with a very small unit primarily catering to product startups. Vision is to cater more and more deep tech startups. Because that's where we think institute can actually contribute to the society. So with that, we started, and the journey is going on, and we are into expansion phases and all that as well. So I will speak a little bit about that somewhere in between, but won't take much time on that. Why we talk about entrepreneurship. So on this slide, I wanted to discuss little bit why we should really think about being entrepreneurs, or why should we really think about going into this risky area. Now, since we're talking about an acumen for entrepreneurship, so one of the important things is that we need to think as a problem solver. All of us living in this country have seen a lot of challenges that we face in our day-to-day lives. Whenever you go out, you might be facing certain challenges. There are a lot of societal challenges. There are a lot of other healthcare related challenges, a lot of small things which can probably make our lives easier. So whenever you step out, or maybe in your home, in your society, you might be finding certain challenges that you face. And many times you might be thinking like how exactly this could be solved. So the entrepreneurship acumen actually starts from right there when you think about solving any problem. So apart from solving that particular problem, I think these are the things which you also solve. So you create wealth for the society, maybe by doing business. You create a lot of jobs. It could be a balanced regional development where you're building up an enterprise in an area, also solving local problems, maybe contribute to the GDP if you're exporting the solutions or services. You can increase the standards of living by solving all these challenges, contributing to exports and also community development. So that's why we usually try and promote entrepreneurship at large. But the initial thing is like to have this problem solving thing. So I think you should always try and look at problems from an angle that can I really solve this thing, and if I'm able to solve it, how much it can contribute to the society. And the advantages of being an entrepreneur is that you can do whatever you love to do at your own times. You be the boss, you create your own team, and work with the people you like. Now, I'll just give you a brief snapshot of the Indian tech startup ecosystem that was in 2020. And despite facing a lot of challenges because of COVID, I think we did really well. And a lot of growth happened. Investor confidence was still there. The startups faced a lot of challenges in terms of their growth. A lot of them working in different areas were not able to find customers. Many of them who had to do some pilots were not able to because of the lockdowns. Sometimes they had supplied some things and the payment couldn't come because a lot of business disruptions were there. So despite all these challenges, a lot of startups actually also found it as an opportunity and tried and developed certain products, which actually helped us a lot during the course of the COVID-19 pandemic. So as you see, there's been 1,600 plus startups that were added in 2020 despite all this. So it's a steady and sustained growth in terms of adding new startups. We are at 12 new unicorns. So all of you might be knowing what a unicorn is. So it's a company that has attained at least a $1 billion valuation, so that we call a unicorn. So now in India, we have 30 plus unicorns. Total funding received by startups was really good. And I think during January to December in 2020, about 3.5 billion. So, I'm just showing all this data just to kind of give a glimpse that despite facing all these challenges, I think there was still a lot of activity that was going on. And in terms of active incubators and accelerators, we added a lot of incubators and accelerators as well. And I think all during the pandemic, also our incubator was functioning. We were providing facilities to the startups, whoever was working on something on the COVID related things, also trying and arranging movement passes for them, and a lot more other things that whatever we could do with limited things that we were having at that point of time. So Indian ecosystem is actually growing by and large. This is more of a sectoral distribution, and it's becoming more heterogeneous as we tackle more and more challenges and use cases. So enterprise tech, wherever we provide solutions to existing industries, are a B2B thing. It's taking the largest share of that. It's more into the IT sector and other things as well. When we talk about health tech now, so health tech is a very important sector, and a lot of us are looking at it with a lot of optimism that a lot of things are really there. And I think the kind of remote health that we looked at in the past year, remote consultancies, and many things, many challenges we faced, and we tried to like think about how exactly we can tackle them. Fintech and edtech is having a good share of market, and retail, HR, consumer tech. Also, I would like to highlight agri-tech, for example. So there's a lot of scope in agri-tech as well, be it the supply chain management, IoT-enabled farming, uh, identification and predictions of crop diseases, or maybe identifying at an early stage when it has not yet kind of harmed the crop. So all these areas are actually developing. We're witnessing a rapid diffusion of entrepreneurship outside the established startup hubs. So, as I was mentioning, like apart from Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, Hyderabad, and a couple of other places like Pune, now the startups are actually proliferating in other parts of the country as well. So, you can see states like Madhya Pradesh, Punjab, Haryana, Rajasthan, Gujarat, then Bengal and Assam and other parts are also coming up. And actually, there are a lot of startups growing in these areas as well. And with relevant interventions also from the state governments now, I think the support is there. So we will see some really good startups coming up from the local regions. And I think sometimes the challenges we face in these areas versus the challenges we face in metro cities are different. So the market understandings for a larger Indian ecosystem could be better with a startup in a small city, because that's where the larger part of the India remains. So the question is, where do I start? There's a whole innovation life cycle, and as I was mentioning, the most important thing is to have that big startup idea. So the big startup idea is basically to identify the right kind of challenge that you think you can solve with the kind of technical capabilities you might have, or with the kind of team you can build. So that's where you start. You identify a right challenge, and identifying a right challenge is the biggest thing you do in terms of starting a startup. And then obviously you have to do a lot other things when you actually decide that, okay, I'm going to now form a company and do a startup. So you have to identify a clear need. You research, observe it further, prioritize an insight, what part of it or how exactly it could be solved, brainstorm. And then you narrow down, like, this is the solution I can provide actually to cater to this particular challenge or to solve this particular problem. Then you make prototypes, revise them, and again, like, this is also a cycle where some iterations might be there. Usability testing has to happen, and once it is in the form of a minimum viable prototype or something which the customer can use, then you start building it in the form of final version with final designs and all, and it goes to market. Also, once a product goes to market, its journey doesn't end there. So you see versions of it coming. For example, a lot of things, maybe tech is a very good example, mobile phones and your general appliances in your home. So every couple of years, you see some changes, some important changes happening. And then again, like, everybody needs to stay there in the competition and bring in a lot more functionalities, or maybe better usability, or a lower price that can actually keep the thing going. Now, despite this, there are a lot of challenges that we face. So challenges could be in the form of funding. You need funds to build a startup, to build a product, to build your team, hire people. You need setups or labs where you can manufacture. You need the raw material for that. You need some equipment and facilities, probably for R&D. Then you need to take care of compliances. There are certifications, validations, licenses for some products. For example, for a medical product, you might need FDA approvals. For a medical device, you might need CDSCO approvals to launch it in the market. So all these compliances and certifications need to be taken care of. Then it's about your sale and business plan. So you need to have a really good business plan, how to reach out to customers, maybe how to reach out to the initial 100 customers. That is most important. And then again, as you grow, you get experience, and you also have a word of mouth, and maybe some good use cases or success stories to tell, to maybe reach out to more and more people. And also you have to create about logistics. You have to create logistics, probably a good supply chain, distributor network, and all these things. So all these things you need to take care of when you think about building a product. And that's where I think incubators also help you. So all the institutes now are actually trying to help their own students, startups, and all to come forward and actually take entrepreneurship as a very, I think, serious thought, give entrepreneurship a very serious thought, and maybe try and do something. So the National Innovation and Startup Policy, now most of the institutes are providing certain certain I would say incentives to the people who want to do startups, be it in the form of funding or at least deferred placement, semester breaks. You can take a break and do something, come back. And I think also policies are coming up, like how a student can do a startup, how a faculty member can do a startup. So all this is also helping, especially for academic entrepreneurs. And also it's a very good time to do startup. A lot of government agencies are there who are actually putting in funding, be it Startup India, like Startup India Seed Fund has been launched. The Prime Minister had announced it this year. We have a program from MIT called TIDE. There are programs from DBT, BIRAC, Department of Science and Technology, like Nidhi, and some of them I'll talk about in a short while. I think the topic of the discussion was also primarily in terms of what are the crucial skills, or you can say an acumen, to be an entrepreneur. So I'll discuss a little bit about that. So the first thing an entrepreneur needs to have is creativity and innovation. So there could be multiple ways of solving a problem, but identifying the right problem and identifying the right manner of solving the problem is the most important. Now, if you see in this image that I had just put in here for a reference, innovation comes with all this. Like, you need to have an inspiration to solve the problem, a vision. Later on, you need to have a growth. So all this process development, creativity is required. Now, talking about creativity, for example, so a product could be designed in multiple manners. You see certain companies give a lot of impetus in terms of creativity and design. So creativity could be either in the product development itself, in the product design, or the product marketing. So if you can actually find somebody having a good amount of creativity and innovation, I think that is important, and that's what we see. So whenever we ask people to present their ideas and all, the way they present it, the kind of thought they have given to it, the way they create their plans and all. So all this is understood, and all this is like kind of analyzed and assessed to identify the right kind of entrepreneurs. Also, it's about leadership and team building. This is a very important skill that an entrepreneur should be having, because having a right kind of team and then obviously getting the work done from that team is very important. And a startup couldn't be done by one person. Obviously, while you can be good at technical skill, maybe develop the product, but you need somebody who can maybe market it well. And obviously, there are a lot more aspects, as we were discussing, like somebody needs to work on funding, somebody needs to work on the compliances and all. So one person couldn't do all that. Probably it's always better to have a good team. Now, also, it's really important to have more and more diverse skills in the team. And the leader should be able to provide a goal to the team, provide enough support, maybe also motivate them, provide solutions to whatever challenges they are facing in between, uh, initially provide a set of training to them, and also share their larger vision of solving this particular problem. So this leadership skill is utmost and it's required. So I think this is also something that an entrepreneur should be having. For the most important thing is resilience. Now, uh, again, like the startup journey is a roller coaster. Sometimes you feel on the top of the world, you get a funding, you get multiple awards, accolades, you're recognized. Maybe some newspapers might be covering you. Maybe just 6 months down the line, you may run out of funds and you may not be able to raise more funds. And all these things keep on happening. So I've seen with really, really good products also, sometimes it may happen that there is a lag phase where you're not able to do something, you're not able to raise funding, the team is not motivated enough. So the entrepreneur should be having at least some sort of resilience and uh, like stick to the particular vision or goal that is there to solve the particular challenge that they're catering to. So we've seen like many a times founders play the join jobs and all these things keep on happening. But somebody who's like really tied up to their vision or kind of say that, okay, I'll try whatever happens, I'll try and I'll develop this thing and I'll take it to market. So that kind of an attitude is required. So there'll be a lot of challenges. There can be challenges from multiple fronts. Sometimes the government policies change, sometimes the funding issues, sometimes there are team issues, and a lot of these things can happen. Maybe you won't be able to find raw material supplier easily. You need to do imports. So a lot of these things can happen, which can slow down your progress. But again, like keep on going, and I think that's the most important thing. One of the important things also is communication skills. So it's about business storytelling, negotiating networks, crowds and movement. So on the right side, as mentioned, there are certain things that you need to have to show proper communication. So I think the founders especially need to have really good communication skills because they'll be the ones doing most of the talking to investors, to initial set of customers, and maybe again doing a larger business deals later on with institutions and others as and when required. So it's very important to have a good, to listen to what the person is in front of you is saying, be it an investor or an advisor or anybody. So you should have strong observational skills to fully understand what is being conveyed to you. A lot of time it happens that people attend mentoring workshops and all, but they don't try and listen what the person is saying, and probably uh, I think lose out on many good information that is being provided to them. A lot of non-verbal communication, so body language is like posture, gestures, eye movement, and all that. So when you're talking to somebody, I think people might analyze on these things. Also, being clear is important. So with how much clarity you're able to communicate your words to the audience or to the person who's listening to you, it's important. So we try and be concise. Don't talk too much or irrelevant things. Be to the point as much as possible. You need to be confident, being personable, so you can correlate to the person you're talking to, and be patient. Like be composed and not rush, and don't try to impose yourself. Listen to the other person, and all these soft skills are actually very important. Also, it's about time management and prioritizing. So you need to prioritize on the daily tasks that you're going to do, or maybe what all things are there in your to-do list. So I mean, the most important things should be done first, and then I think accordingly you can manage your time. So collaborate with people, prioritize your jobs, make timesheets, link timesheets and project tools. I think a lot of these things could be done with various tools available these days, but overall I think a good time manager is required, and somebody who can prioritize their things. Now those were the primary soft skills, or maybe general skills that we try and identify whenever we talk to entrepreneurs. And then it's all about so based on these skills, it's all about how they plan. So I'll talk about applying for startup funding and the key aspects to that. Uh, so one is the relevance of the problem that you identify, its novelty, how you build a team, is there any new IP, and your marketing strategies. All these things are important. Maybe I'll just discuss a little bit of these things in the form of uh, a pitch deck that we generally give. So when you identify a problem statement, you have to kind of uh, elaborate on how exactly the problem statement was identified. So, for example, you look at the context. When is the problem happening, or during what process the problem is being faced? Then, what is the root cause of this problem? Uh, what do people do generally these days, or to avoid this problem, or to take care of it right now? Uh, Also, who are the people who face this problem? Is there any emotional impact associated with this, or if there's any quantifiable or measurable impact? And then what are the shortcomings of the alternatives? So if people are able to solve this or do away with it with some process, what are those shortcomings? And can I develop something which can solve this problem in a better way, in an efficient manner? Or maybe, so certain things you can look at. Maybe I can bring cost effectiveness, I can bring a better quality, I can bring faster results. So if you can do any of these, I think you can define a good problem statement using this sheet. Then you have to look at the market size and a targeted market share. So now we start talking about business. So now we identify a good problem statement, but we also need to talk about business, because when you being an entrepreneur, apart from solving problem, also you need to build a sustainable business which can in the long run sustain itself and maybe earn some profits, which could be put in later on to solve some other problems as well. So companies grow, they do R&D, they launch new products also. So it keeps on going. So you identify that based on the problem, what is the market size? So for example, if I build a product for a particular challenge that I'm facing, how many people currently buy products related to that, or how many people are affected? If I, for example, put one product for 100 rupees, will people be able to buy it, or will they be willing to spare 100 rupees to buy it? So you can think that way and actually think about a market size. So I think with some research, background research, you can easily find out what is the larger market in the local region, in the country, maybe across the globe. They need to prepare a business model. So you need to identify your key partners. Your partners could be raw material suppliers, manufacturers, distributors, and any other relevant partners who actually would help you in the course of your business, developing a products or supplying a products or distributing, or maybe even creating your websites, marketing for you, and all these. So all these could be the key partners. You identify your partners in the right manner. You define a cost structure for the product. So sometimes, many times, entrepreneurs do this mistake that they link the product cost with the cost price, which is kind of the bill of material. So I can build this product in 1,000 rupees with all the raw material that is available to me, but they don't factor in the manpower costs that go into it, the facility that is required, the supply chain that is required, the distributor network that is required, and again, having enough margins for the company to sustain and maybe put in more R&D. So a product which could be probably made in 50 rupees may have a selling price of 500. A lot of these things happen. So your margins have to be defined in a realistic manner so that the business is sustainable. Now you have to talk about your revenue streams. So is it a business to business? You're catering to larger industries, you're supplying product for somebody else to put into something and then sell, or is it direct to customer product which can be sold in retail shops? And also revenue streams in terms of sale or subscription or a service. So how exactly this product works. For example, I can provide a product to a store, but the store doesn't sell it. It actually uses service and for its own use, or maybe provide a service-based thing to the final end user. So, I mean, all these things are possible. So based on the problem, I think you can identify these things. Most important thing, and I think this thing we discussed earlier also, to building the right team is very, very important in all aspects. So you need to have people with complementary skill sets, somebody having the engineering mindset to build the product, somebody having a marketing thing, somebody who can make good connects. While the founder is expected to like be good in most of these things, but obviously one person cannot be good in all these things. So you identify your shortcomings and take people on board as co-founders or as employees who can actually fill in the gaps that you feel you won't be able to spare enough time to, or maybe somebody can do it in a better way. So have team members who can do certain things better than what you can. And also important to have people having business minds. I mean, so when we talk about startups from academia, or we're talking about startups coming from educational institutions, uh, and working on technology, sometimes they don't have enough knowledge of how businesses work. So they can build the technology, but then putting it into the market is another thing. So have relevant team members. Also define relevant milestones. So whenever you try and put a proposal to somebody that this is what you're planning to do, you tag it along with relevant milestones. So this is where we are currently. This much time we'll need to build our team. This much time we'll need to build our product. And then you need to tell them like maybe a tentative timeline that is required for you to reach to the market. So you can put a tentative timeline that, okay, in 3 years, I'll be able to launch the first product in the market. In 5 years, I'll be able to cater to, say, 10,000 plus customers, or maybe able to sell 10,000 units of the product. So that ways you can identify your milestones. Also, getting formal approvals from regulatory bodies could also be milestones. If there are trials required, so getting the trials done is also a milestone that could be put in. And also you need to check like at what stage of development you are, where you will reach in terms of capacities like manufacturing, deployment, customer segments. So where exactly you stand at. So these things could be defined. Uh, this is a slide on funding cycle. So uh, you start from very early seed funds that are available either at the incubators or from some government programs that are available. So this is a stage where a product development is happening, and you're actually, so the line that you see, this curvy line that shows your expenditure or revenue. So initially you're actually burning money to develop the product. And then at some point of time, you start generating some revenue, but still whatever you're generating is still less than what you're spending because you have your marketing costs and all that. So at these early stages, seed fund or angel funding could help you because larger investors start coming primarily at a stage where you either break even or start generating some profit. So once you start generating profits, there's an early stage investment that comes in the form of venture capitalists, debt funds, and all. Then there are larger VCs, strategic alliances, and all that happens at a later stage. And I mean, if the company grows well, then you can start raising. You can put up a public offering and uh, go to market in a larger way. These are the funding options for startups. So there are certain grants, then there are loans called debt financing and equity financing. So you can weigh in your options as per the progress of the company. At a very early stage, you're primarily looking for grants because there's a high risk. You may not be able to take loans, maybe with uncertainty that you'll be able to pay them back. But then again, grants are very, very limited and everybody may not be able to get them. So then there are options like equity financing and debt financing. Again, equity financing is also something which won't come at a stage where you're making huge losses or you're not able to really demonstrate the product as of now, because equity is basically investment against shares. So nobody will be interested in the shares unless the company shows that they have something to do, show that they have something to do. And then comes debt financing. So loans could still be procured. Small amounts of loans like Mudra scheme and others are there, which can be there. Now, there are different models, again, like in terms of returns. So grants don't need returns. You don't have pressure for repayments. Debt financing, you have to return, and there is a pressure, and also interest payments are there. Equity financing is less pressure because, again, like you're issuing shares and not returning the money as such, but there are pressures from investors to achieve growth targets, and also investors will be involved in your decision making. So I've just tried to cover it for sake of clarity. A lot of support programs also for entrepreneurs, students, and faculty members. Some these are listed. Some of here I've listed some of the programs that we are actually managing directly. So at an immersion or ideation stage, there's a program called Spursh, which is more into social innovation and immersion. So what we do is we select 5 innovators in each cycle, and one cycle lasts for 18 months. So they are selected based on, again, their entrepreneurship acumen, whether they are trying to solve a problem and have these kind of skills. And then we take them to fields, take them to sites where they can identify use cases. So, for example, if we are having a medical device cohort, then we take them to hospital to identify relevant gaps where a device could kind of solve some problem. Or if we're talking about environment, we can take them to uh, landfills, we can take them to waste treatment plants, we can take them to other places and ask them to identify relevant challenges there and how exactly they can try and bridge. So it's a fellowship program, gives 50,000 rupees a month fellowship. And then once you identify a problem and propose something, so a 5 lakh rupee kickstart grant. So similar ways, like I think we have some immersion programs. Then comes the product development and validation stage program. So for example, for biotechnology, BIG is there, which gives you 250 lakh rupees funding. With Pfizer, we have program, Pfizer Ideal Innovation IP program. Then we have platform for harnessing deep technology, the PhD incubator program, which is again like for open for any deep tech startup or somebody bringing in a deep technology that can solve. So we're looking more at futuristic technologies. For faculty members, we started a program, but right now it's limited to IIT Delhi faculty members only. We have a program with Sona Comstar, one of the automotive component manufacturers, for safe, clean, and eco-friendly smart mobility. So last year we supported 2 startups. So for each startup, a funding of up to 80 lakh rupees is provided in this program as a grant in aid. And we are trying to like kind of have relevant technologies for the automotive sectors, be it components or some futuristic technologies. Then there's a program by MIT called Tide, where there's an entrepreneurship in residence thing available, which is 4 lakh rupees to be utilized for a period of 1 year, and a grant which is for startups. So 7 lakh rupees as a kickstart grant too. So these interventions could be in AI, IoT, or even some app-based interventions could be supported in this. We have Nidhi Seed support from DST, which caters to almost all domains of science. Then with Engineers India Limited, we're doing an NSWE program, which is to solve problems in the areas of environment and sustainability, renewable power generation, and related fields. And there's also a program called IDEX, Innovations in Defense Excellence. So this program launches Defense India Startup Challenge every year. So Army, Navy, Air Force, and other defense establishments like DRDO, HAL, and others provide certain challenges to solve, and startups and MSMEs can participate in that and try and put up technical solutions to those. And there are programs at pilot scales, market entry, which are more like investment-based programs. There are certain training and mentoring programs also that we keep on doing. So, I mean, there's details for all these programs. I won't go too much into all this. I think we're already, and I'll try and keep some time for a discussion. So, as I mentioned, like there are certain programs like Credit Guarantee Scheme, Mudra Scheme, Multiply Grant Schemes also that provide funding to startups. I just discuss a few use cases or stories about the products that were launched through support from incubator. So this you can see like Nasal Filters on the right side. So this is a startup again started by certain students who were textile technology students. So they developed this nano mesh material mentioned down here. So this nanomesh can actually trap particles at very nano scale size. So even PM 2.5 and all could be captured, and is not allowed to pass through this. Sorry. So uh, initially, I mean, before COVID, a lot of us didn't really liked wearing masks, and I think these days also we don't really like wearing masks for long periods. So this team had developed these nasal filters. These are small filters that can actually be just put on your nose, and then you can breathe using these filters. So a lot of pollution actually that comes in through your nose could be prevented. Only the time you're talking, sometimes you breathe through your mouth, but otherwise it's mainly through the nose. And similarly, these people made AC filters that can be put into existing ACs, so that your AC could be turned into an air purifier. And then again, like they created these N95 grade masks and other things. So I think during COVID, I think these people were able to cater to a large set of population very early on, when we were struggling to find basic things like masks and all as well. Uh, this is a startup, Ecom Eco Solution, which is working on ecological areas. So these people, with the vision to save water, created waterless urinals. So these waterless
I think there is some network issue at the speaker's end. Participants, you are requested to please be patient. He must be joining back soon.
Sorry, I got disconnected due to some reason. I'll
No,
just
no, no worries, sir.
Yeah, so I was talking about this startup. So these people created these waterless urinals to save water. So every time you go to a urinal, you don't need to flush or use water the way it was used earlier. So this was a zero odor, so didn't create any odor and all. And I think the urine that is passing through this is also processed. So I mean, there's no dirt caused by this. These people also made a lot of natural cleansers and even fruit wash and all. That was also like quite important during. So these days, I think the vegetables and fruits that we buy, especially in cities and all, go through a lot of harsh treatments and weather and pollution and all. So I think this solution helps in washing them in a better way. And even certain times we see wax coatings and also that could be removed from this. So it's more of an ecological solution that this startup is trying to bring in. There's one more company, Value Primus, created by a faculty member and a couple of his PhD students, that is working into developing multiple medical devices. So one of them is CTB and one of them is IMC square. So CTB is primarily for tuberculosis diagnosis. Uh, it's also having an inbuilt AI feature. So you just put a slide and the microscope attachment can actually tell you based on that whether they find the right kind of cells, and it can diagnose and can directly give you a result instead of you trying and spending your time on analysis. Also, there's an immunomagnetic capture device. So this is based on again like antibodies having magnetic nanoparticles. So these antibodies bind to certain bacteria, and the magnetic fields can actually then be used to concentrate the sample. So in many conditions, you don't find enough bacterial load to do a test. So this can probably help you doing a test in a faster manner. So instead of doing a culture, you can just concentrate the pathogen by using a magnetic field and then do a test. So these team was supported by the Pfizer ITTLE program, and now they're like just into the trial and certification phases. There's a 2 HB hemometer that was developed by one of the startups we had, again from a student here. So it gives digital hemoglobin reading. So you can just prick your finger. There's a small consumable strip that could be hooked onto the device. You put a drop of blood on that strip, and it instantly gives you a hemoglobin reading. Similarly, a lot of the other products are there. So this was for mastectomies, for breast cancer patients, uh, to prevent social stigma. I think one of the startups designed this. Uh, Cleansta is developing waterless shampoo and waterless body wash, again like to save water, and also in certain use cases, for example, if you're in mountains, even our defense forces on mountains where they won't have water to take bath, they can use it for cleansing themselves. Even people in Navy and adventure enthusiasts or travelers or people who are hospitalized on beds, they can't go to washrooms to take baths, so they can use it, just spray it on your body, rub it off so you feel fresh, and I think the dirt is gone. Similarly, during COVID, I think a lot of products were launched by the startups, and we have a very strong textile department. I was talking about one of the textile technologies earlier. So different kinds of masks with different capabilities were launched. Uh, Again, like some other decontamination solutions were launched. And also we help startups work on different solutions. Like on the left, you can see like we helped startups complete the respirators and oxygen concentrators. One of the startups has launched an Hope, which is an e-bike for delivery solutions. On the top, you see about, in the middle of the top picture. So that's a facial recognition algorithm, which kind of can track the movements across various industries or hospitals, and also uh, these things are really required sometimes in emergency use cases. Also, like again, we supported a lot of other COVID-19 products. These are some of the other products launched by Incubate. So these two while I've covered. On the left side, lower left, you see Flex Crutch. So this crutch was actually developed by mechanical engineering students. This mimics the movement of your foot. So you see like down there, it's kind of a foot structure. So one thing is it can walk on different terrains, wherever sometimes the round bottom crutch during rains or during muddy thing it gets in. So this resists that and doesn't go that much inside mud or so. And also it provides kind of an energy to walk. So this part actually takes the weight when you go in, so it's not a jerk, and then when you're taking it off on the next step, so it also propels you and gives you a little bit of energy push. So it kind of saves like 20-25% energy for a disabled while walking. Again, like Sanfield launched many products in feminine hygiene. Accure bottles were launched with active copper ingredients. So while traditionally we know like we drink water in copper vessels and all, but everybody may not be able to have it all the time, and at certain times you cannot use metal containers and all while traveling. So these are plastic bottles which are made with embedded copper, which leaches out slowly, and then I think also this prevents microbial growth into the water, as copper has antimicrobial activities. Prism is a small spectrophotometer. The team has also developed multiple different capability spectrophotometers. And again, like, I mean, the list goes on, so I won't go too much into detail of all these things. There are many, many products recently which were developed by startups. So just ending at this last slide. So uh, while you identify your relevant challenges, you have an ideas, passions, needs, and dreams. You also think about the customer, and also you can yourself think like a customer. Like, for example, I am in the shoes of a customer, then will I buy the product that I'm making? So what do I need? What are my interests and desires? So based on that, you can think. And again, when combined with the right kind of resources, facilities, mentorship, I think then you can achieve this profit zone. So I think with that, I'll just stop this presentation. Maybe we can have some time for discussion in case you guys have any questions for me. Thank you.
So, thank you so much, Dr. Ashutosh. And it was really a very good presentation. And this session actually opened one horizon for our participants to look deeper into their assessment, and also opportunities and various opportunities at different levels. Uh, they can get from FITT IT Delhi, and as one of the oldest incubator and the trendsetter in this region as well, and all over India, FITT hosts a range of programs to help your ventures at different levels. And I think this session was very, very helpful for all the participants. So participants, you can either post your questions or you can ask. You can directly unmute yourself.
Hello, I have a question. If you
Yes.
look into the entrepreneurship statistical data worldwide, the contribution of the entrepreneurs, especially with respect to the hello, with respect hello,
Yes, you are audible, sir.
Yes, yes.
Please go ahead.
with respect to India, the percentage is less, I believe. So, what could be the reason and how to improve that?
Yeah. So see, I think what where we lacked is in terms of bringing up innovative solutions. So while uh, through the 90s and all, we were already, I mean, doing a lot of manufacturing and all, a lot of industries were set up. But the kind of innovation we wanted to bring in, that was not there. But if you see the early 2000s and all, the likes of Infosys and also, I mean, these were also companies built from scratch. So I call them entrepreneurs and startups as well at some point of time. So be it Infosys or HCL or similar companies. So they started contributing their bit. Again, like Indian IT sector did that initially, but now we are looking primarily at a sector where we can actually build in product startups to solve our problems. So while even if you see now out of our unicorns, almost all of them, bearing one or two, could be all are service-based startups. So somebody's an e-commerce platform, somebody's a food delivery platform, and all that. But we're looking at products. So we are not really good at building products. So also when we think about competing with other countries, like if you go to countries like USA, Israel, and many other countries, I think their product innovations were really strong, and that's where now we are slowly going on, and I think trying and build this capability. Again, getting the right kind of technical support, the right kind of raw material, and all that. The whole ecosystem actually needs improvement. Even when we were thinking about making oxygen concentrators during COVID, I think the compressors, the zeolites, and all, we were still importing. So we were dependent on other countries. Why can't we build them ourselves? But that takes time and that takes some capability. We can't build everything in a day. So unless we build all that supply chain pipeline and all right from scratch, right kind of components and all, we were good at assembling things, but I think now we need to look at a grassroots level where we can actually innovate and build and completely indigenize things. So we lagged, but I think we are catching up fast now.
Thank you, sir. Can I
Yeah.
extend discussion a little bit? If somebody else is there, opportunity they can ask. But if you look at into the other, I was fortunate enough to be there in Europe and America, but I saw that there are a lot of spin-outs and spin-offs in the academic environment. But we do not see such things the many successful thing because academic environment is totally into their academic activities, but they don't. Although we say schemes just for NIRF or any NAC or any accreditation, they have this incubation, but the culture of this in whatever entrepreneurship promotion is not that. It may be of namesake, but when we consider the academic innovations or thing are very less. So what we need to do to accelerate this and beyond the just a namesake thing, something has to come out in the academic institutions because they nurture a lot of young talents.
Yes, and I think that is also changing. So, I mean, if you see 5 years back, a lot of universities were in fact not open to their faculty members doing startups and businesses because they said, will the faculty actually teach if they're already doing their own businesses? But all that is changing. The mindsets are changing now. In fact, now universities and maybe can give some credit to the rankings like ARIA and all, actually trying and getting into all this entrepreneurship and all, and allowing faculty members, allowing students to do all this. So while traditionally we were also, I mean, at IITs we were solving problems, but we were quite open. And if you see universities like Stanford and all, I think they had this culture long back. So that's why Silicon Valley is talked about and all, because they used to promote closer partnership with the industry and their faculty members doing their own businesses and all. We were not too open. We were looking more at tech transfers. Faculty develop something, even if it's having an application, you just do a tech transfer. It's not your job to build an industry. But now it's changing to some extent. So now we are actually trying and promote people who have developed their product, who are married to it, to actually come up and also try and take it to the end user. So things are changing, although the pace was slow. It's also rapidly increasing. More and more universities are coming up with policies changes and all. And also this is now being considered as a success metric, the number of patents you file, maybe if you're able to put a product to market and all. Otherwise, generally in academia, we're like maybe number of papers published, the impact factors and all were the metrics. But now it's also changing to an extent. Yes.
Thank you, sir. A final word on academic innovations.
Yeah, in
Well,
fact, I think academic
academic
innovations
innovations in
are
Indian setup.
right, right. So I think if you see, I mean, a lot of these people who have come up with really good companies, and I'll give maybe initially global examples, the likes of Google, Facebook, and all. They came up from college dorms only. So there were people who were working in colleges. They developed something as a local thing, and then eventually it scaled up into global. So there are a lot of companies, actually very big companies, that started from colleges, and that shows an impact what an entrepreneur at an early stage with all the energy can do. So these are kind of motivational stories for us to tell, but I think a lot more needs to be done. So while we build all this ecosystem and all, I think the motivation needs to be there. So right from beginning, we need to motivate our students and also give them some training at least. So I think most of the colleges now have courses on entrepreneurship. Even engineering students are having certain courses on entrepreneurship management and all. So with this, I think there'll be a change that will be coming. Although in the mindset change from middle class of India needs to be there. We used to be like job seekers all the time. That okay, you get something, don't get into a risky thing. Maybe it'll waste 4 years of yours, and maybe you won't get anything. But so was the case when people used to do IAS preparations and all. They used to invest a lot of time. Somebody converts, somebody doesn't. So that success ratio and the risk factor is always there. So I think looking into all that, we need to promote entrepreneurship now in a better way, and I think the changes will come soon.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, there is uh, in the chat box. Dr. Gopal has asked for if you can share your PPT.
I'll share those details, no problem. Yeah, I'll share that. So you can share it with the participants of the.
Sure, sir. So participants, uh, we have another 2-3 minutes left. You can ask your questions. Okay, so if no further questions, sir, if any question comes up, I will direct it to you. And
Sure.
thank you for this beautiful session, sir. It encompasses all the aspects, and actually, it started with the one slide I could look for, that NISP, National Innovation and Startup Policy. Actually, that is one of the key implementing instrument which will actually help the whole academic system. As today we are watching that what IIT Delhi has done through FITT, and they are talking about Transfer of Technology Office (TOT). Still, many institutions in our country are devoid of having the innovation cell, incubation center, and other things. So you can see the progress they have made, the system they have made. So that kind of framework, when we adopt to these kind of good policies, so everything will fall in place, definitely, sir. So, with this, sir, on behalf of ACIC MIT Meerut Foundation, IEEE UP section, and STIC IT Madras, I welcome you. I thank you on behalf and all the participants who are arrived here on this Friday, the weekend, and they are very, very much indebted to your session. Lot of knowledge shared in this session, and tomorrow we are going to have one elaborated session on the funding opportunities. So, sir has actually set up the pace for this week's next session. And thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, participants. See you tomorrow.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir.